Yeah, I direct so many people to your dad's Instagram. Like, hey, you want to go? Do you want to see what I saw? Go look at these videos.
Yeah, it's cool to think about, right?
Yeah.
And I believe having the opportunity to share that experience with you guys is a big part of the reason I was able to go back and have the experience on my own. Because naturally, I'm kind of a skeptical person, and there was always, even though I believed, there was always a little shred of doubt in the back of my mind.
Right.
And having you guys facilitate that for us and seeing it myself, there's no doubt at all anymore. And then, like I said, a couple of weeks later, I went back home and was looking at the sky and I saw orbs on my own. And just having that, knowing that confirmation, it removed any shred of doubt. And like I said, anybody can do it. You just have to believe.
Yeah. You have to, be thankful and humble and all that stuff that we talk about all the time. But like, we also forgot to mention that night, what was that, last week, right? When you saw the orb?
Yeah, it was a little over a week ago. And the crazy thing about it was within minutes of me seeing the orb, you texted me. And, that was just a little bit. Asking you to be on the show. Yeah, that was just a little bit more of a confirmation to me.
You know what? I got the receipts here. Let's hash that out because it's a really, I was showing people this. I'm not going to lie. Okay. So I texted you Wednesday, October 18th. What is today, guys? The 28th. So 10 days ago.
Yep.
I texted you. You came over and did full disclosure the week before that, I believe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, we recorded together. And we talked about it that night. I was like, Ryan, I think I want to do something on the main show, and me, you, and Alex and Jenny hashed it out. It's like we can invite Kyle. We can do a whole big episode, but we don't meet again until October 28th. So keep it tentative. If you have other plans, that's totally fine. But just like be open to the idea that we might love to have you on that day. Let me just figure out a couple other details. Let me talk to Kyle, this, that, and the other. So, okay. So then the next week, I text you again on Wednesday, October 18th. I say, confirmed for the 28th. I even got up with Kyle. And you texted me. And you said, crazy timing. I was just about to text you. I just saw an orb for the first time by myself. And you said, sounds good. Looking forward to it. And it took me a while to respond because actually I think I was recording an episode that night on the main show, but virtually. So it took me like an hour and a half to respond. I was like, oh, that's insane. Just now seeing this, that means that this is meant to happen. Very excited to record. It's no coincidence. We'll coordinate as we get closer, whatever. And you said, I hope you don't mind that I'm reading what you said.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
You said, I'm excited too, man. Called out to the Holy Spirit, asked for her to present herself if it was her will. Saw an orb drift across the sky, fading in and out. And then I texted you minutes later, right? And the connection there between, getting you on the show and you seeing the thing. And then I said, boom, I messaged you minutes later and asked you to come on the show and talk about it, and you see the orb. See how that works? And Ryan said, no such thing as coincidence. And I said, exactly. And it was a gif of Yoda. Because I'm trying to help you. My whole purpose in all of this, all of it, since episode 0, even when we have a freaking episode that has nothing to do with anything, and, probably our not so greatest episode where we're eating out of a bowl of M&Ms talking about mudras and mantras. Even if we have an episode where we're talking about Harry Potter, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, whatever we're doing. My entire goal of all of this from the start, it's like you have TV shows, right? And there's the canon and then there's the filler. Well, this is the canon. This is what it's all about to me. My whole purpose is just trying to show people how to do this, to not gatekeep, but to give it to everybody, to share with everybody. I want everybody to experience this. I want everybody to know about this. Truthfully, I want the whole world to know about it. I want everybody. So it's just crazy that it's happening. And it's crazy for me that I get to be a part of guiding at least 2 people.
Yeah. One thing that gets me is I think gets missed is talking about the synchronicities and the dreams and all this kind of stuff, and how, trying to explain that to people is really difficult. The fact that you, saw an orb at the same moment that he was texting you, those types of things to me are really hard to portray to people, but they're going on and they're happening with apparently a lot of people and all the time. And it's definitely happened with me, and it's been happening, and it's happening with you, and there's countless others.
You blew my dad's mind that night. And you don't even know why.
Why?
Because you told him the story about how your first orb sighting was when you were telling a friend about my dad.
Yeah.
So we leave the beach that night. We get home. My mom and dad loved you guys, by the way. They thought you were just the nicest guys. Like definitely.
Oh, that's kind.
From now on, when we keep doing these sky watches, like I'm going to be inviting you guys. I'd love for the more people who are there that know about this and are not skeptical, it energizes the whole group. And I don't want to call out anybody, but we did have a skeptic in that crowd that night. And by the end of it, it was funny actually, because like kind of, a little bit, I don't want to say grumpy. That's not the right word, but just imagine being somebody who's not into all this. Your wife's bringing you there and you're like, being a good husband, you're showing up, but you're like kind of very visibly not into all this. By the end of the night, he was into pictures. You remember?
Yeah.
By the end of the night, he was seeing the crazy flashes. And at first, you remember, right? He was like, no, I don't take pictures. I don't like being in pictures. He didn't want to be associated. And then Dad said, okay, guys, usually, when we leave, they give us one final show to say goodbye and have a good night, right? They don't actually, the beings don't say goodbye, have a good night. They do some crazy flash that's like, okay, that was the finale, usually. And it did. And the thing shot straight down into the ocean. And I missed it because I was looking at the camera because we were taking a group picture at that moment. Y'all all saw it but me. Next thing I know, I'm looking at the pictures later, and that guy was in it.
Yeah.
That got to him. He literally said out loud, he said, okay, that was weird, or something like that. And he was in the picture. So it's funny, like even the skeptic dude in the crowd, he was changed.
Yeah. He became a believer. I mean, it's undeniable. It's undeniable.
Yeah. And the more of us who are there who have that knowing, it helps the whole group. You know what I mean? Like the one skeptic couldn't stand up to the 10 people who were really into this. And that's cool. But so you blew my dad's mind because you're not the first person who's told him that. He's been told that by a lot, like a staggering amount of people, that like when I told somebody about you, an orb appeared and we both saw it.
Yeah. And how do you explain that? I mean, where does this come from? That I was telling this story, is repeating his story. And, it's unfathomable, but it happened. And, what does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, I can only speculate, right?
Yeah.
I can only speculate that maybe it's like, maybe the beings are so smart that they like the association. It's like, if I go and say, God, I really don't want to like call anybody out by name and be negative, but, people out there who are pushing fake stuff, but we'll do one that's a throwaway. If I go out there and say, Corey Good, that'd be a little disappointing if beings started showing up, right? Because that's, if you think about it, it's like, okay, well, if I say this person's name and then some entity appears, well, if you think about it for just 5 seconds, that entity's kind of like attached to that person, endorsing that person, confirming that person, and there's not a lot of people out there in the public space it's just an unfortunate reality that the majority of UFO information, I mean, I hate that I even have to describe this. I've grown up around CIA and NASA and all these intelligence agencies. I'm telling you, most of it's fake, so it's like, it makes sense that when you're telling this story that, just, hey, here's my friend who experiences this. Boom. Okay. Well, we actually see those beings. They're omnidimensional. They're everywhere. So sure, they would give you a flash at a different location, but it's the confirmation for you and your friend that like, oh man, like this is real.
Yeah.
It makes sense. That's where my mind goes. But
as you said, this is just speculation, but to give my 2 cents on it, I believe that the beings will drop little breadcrumbs to let you know that you're moving in the right direction, as you journey along your path to truth. You'll see synchronicities, or you'll see Ryan will text you whenever you see an orb or something like that, or whenever you're mentioning Chris's story, you see an orb and they're just dropping little breadcrumbs to let you know that you're going down the right path and that you're getting closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. Yeah.
It's weird. But like, I like to ask this. I don't always remember to, but I like to ask this to guests who come on our show. And I want to ask both of you. If you had a scenario in which, and keep in mind, sure, we are recording right now, so maybe this is that scenario, but if realistically, if you had a scenario in which, the whole world could hear what you had to say, what was most important to you, what stands out to you, it doesn't even have to be about the beings or, whatever, just like if you had that last thing that you could communicate to people, that's a special something from your inner being that you desire for others to know to help them grow, what would it be?
You want to take that first?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first. And this is something that I've said before, but to me, the one thing that I'd like for everybody to know is that this can happen to anybody. The one of the reasons that I had doubts to begin with was in the back of my mind, I've always felt like it took a special type of person, or only some people got to experience this. But if you believe and you know and your heart is in the right place, anybody can have this experience. Ryan said it earlier, the beings, the Holy Spirit, they have a connection to everyone. So anybody listening to this, if your heart is in the right place, you set your intentions, they're going to show themselves to you whenever they feel that the time is right. And this can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. And I'm right there with you. That's like a similar thing is the spiritual growth, how important it is, trying to find love in your life and, dispelling the negativity, the positivity. Those have all been critical in my journey. And there's no doubt that has a lot to do with this connection, and anybody can do it and can have it. These things are real. They are happening. And, it's a personal connection, and it has to do with you. These are not external things that are, just randomly happening. It has to do with your spiritual growth. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been told for thousands of years. You have shamans who've been saying this, Native Americans, and even like the peyote shamans in Mexico. Oh my gosh, I just recently did a whole trip there and was around peyote shamans, and moving on from that, it's like there's so many ancient cultures throughout the world, and then you get into the esoteric body of knowledge, and there's just so much data that is like pretty much all saying the same thing. That God is the spirit. That's abstract, right? Like, what is the spirit? There's lots of spirits. Well, yeah, but really, like, imagine there is a force that's all around us. It's everywhere. It's within us. Every breath that we breathe is animated from that spirit. The wind that blows, all life that comes here, it's all from one intelligent force or mind or spirit. And like, that's the thing that we've forgotten since ancient times, is that like we're all connected to this spirit, but that connection begins to grow when we seek that connection, and like the reason you guys even came to that beach that night and had that experience with us is because you were seeking. It's just plain and simple.